fighters have been fighting against this model for more than 10 years now. It's
Yeah.
not just the unionizing of it. It's not. It's every aspect of it. It's just the UFC tries to control everything, and it's just not. It doesn't work well when you do things that way, and you're starting to see the pushback of it and the retaliation of it.
I'll tell you the worst part about that whole thing to me. I feel like the worst result from that is the lack of respect from the general sports fan, and that started to turn around, but it's because it's everything. The fighters are making a little bit more, and we're getting covered on ESPN. There's a lot of channels. There's a lot of content for the sports. So that's making people start to understand it and like it a little bit more.
Well,
but the level of professionalism and athleticism for a UFC fighter, I mean, it's no less than NBA or NFL or something.
That's some of the things we were talking about before we had you on. Like, you go and look at the NFL, they have if you're in the NFL for 3 years, you're a part of the alumni. There, you get X, Y, and Z.
Yeah,
I don't think there should be any reason if you competed 10 fights in the UFC that you should be put into some type of alumni type thing where you guys have some type of medical pension, etc. Like Eddie was sitting there breaking off some numbers. Like, I think what was it last year? The athletes got paid 11% revenue that they make in when they make billions of dollars a year. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah, man, and it's really it's just a shame, man, because people would and the day is coming. The day is coming for sure.
Oh yeah, it is. I still think the most messed up thing, I think, when it was happening, like a lot of people didn't realize it, is Dana White basically used the UFC 133 thing as I need to control the uniform as what the UFC doing, and killed all sponsorship for you guys.
Yeah,
it was just, it made things really tough, and then even worse so is because we have X, Y, and Z sponsored. Well, you can't talk about this now. You can only talk about if you're talking about betting, you can only talk about FanDuel, because we have a deal with FanDuel, and if you have a deal with whoever it is, you can't talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes things really difficult, and then you have the deal with when they came out with
my perspective of how I view it set up is kind of like the Dallas Cowboys is the NFL, and and I think that's going to be the thing that makes a big difference, is that whenever
I'm glad you said the Cowboys, because if you look at what happens to the Cowboys over the last 20 years or so, they've been kind of humbled and things of that nature. Are they successful? Yes, but they've never gotten back to the pinnacle. And I hope what we see over the next few years is just everyone sees what the market really is, and not really get caught up in them contracts and trying to play that game with Dana and or the UFC.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, it's going to be more organizations that come in and compete, and there's going to be a need for an Ali Act where one organization can't hold and control and leverage the world championship belt. It has to be a third party, and there has to be bidding that drives up the pricing that you contract the fighter for. So that's gonna need multiple different organizations. So investors, the people out there with the money, are starting to see the trend of it, and the more that they get involved in it, they realize that that it becomes less of a risk to go out there, because everyone is trying to build something up so that they can grow a company to be able to afford to compete with UFC, kind of like Dave Feldman has done with BKFC. He's been out there and he's busted ass. He saw the vision. He saw an opening in the marketplace, and he's out there just working his ass off to fill that gap that needs to be filled, and bring something to the table where fighters can actually get paid. And the same fighters that are the MMA fighters in the UFC are starting to be, the fighters in BKFC, and he's just trying to fill that spot in the marketplace that's inevitable. So more organizations like that coming in, offering more money, it drives up the bids, and you almost don't even need a third party in a way. But in order to unify everyone together, which is going to be the case, I think Bellator is doing really well. PFL is doing really well. Of course, ONE FC gets more eyeballs in Asia than we do over here. So these are all going to start to compete with each other, drive up the dollar amount that a fighter can make for a belt, and then somehow work out some type of deal to unify. And they see it. I mean, you see Dana White talking to Chatri and doing a little ONE FC collaboration, because why not be part of it before you get put out of business? That's the turning point.
That's what these guys are opened the doors a long time ago. He needed, all right, when they initially did the Pride versus UFC thing, why not bring that back? Why not do a thing with Bellator 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Why wait? What exactly what you're sitting there saying? Like why not get in something with ONE FC and do a tournament with a hand? Like, you don't even have to have your biggest draws there. Just get guys who could make fun fights and compete. You don't have to have your world champions compete on the ONE FC versus UFC.
It's a natural evolution, man. If you see, I mean, we want it to happen now, but it's happening. It has to happen.
It has to happen.
And the thing is, right? If you look at it from the UFC corporation's standpoint, they've just made the decision at the time that they thought was the best way to keep growing the company. And they probably do take into consideration the culture of it and the frame of mind of the viewer and their reputation. I mean, they take a lot of things into consideration, I'm sure, but they're at the end of the day, they're making the decision at the time that no one is big enough to really threaten us, so we're going to keep doing it this way. Once you get someone that can threaten them, then the deal starts to change. You see ONE FC coming in is like, well, we've analyzed this Chatri Sidiotong guy, and he is, we found out, a bad motherfucker. And he gives zero about what people think, and he has not only said, I'm going to start, have a goal to have a company or be a billionaire. It's much bigger than that. He's just like, all right, I'm going to take this over. Watch me. Stand, you know what I'm saying? Hold my boxing gloves for a second and just watch what I'm going to do. And now he's threatening. So they're going to come together, and eventually more and more of these types of men or women or whatever that are just such high achievers that are going in this lane because it's getting bigger. It might be my kids, and they're going to come up and they're going to create more things, and then you'll see the future. I predict in 100 years from now, fighters are going to be the highest paid athletes.